white people aren't in the kitchen. I mean, you know, in California, it's typically Hispanic people. Um, in the southern United States, if you look at who's doing the menial jobs, it's basically black people. So how do you tell a young kid that everybody's equal, that color doesn't matter? They can look around and see in their own world that it does matter. If you have something that developed over hundreds of years of oppression, in my view, you have to deal with it. You have to confront it. You know, I don't know how many of us are really prepared to deal with historical justice issues. But unless we make a decision that somehow we have to start doing that, I don't think we're going to ever get to the point where what we call race, that social construction of race, doesn't matter. I think King recognized, certainly during his lifetime, that we weren't there, that it was a dream. He talked about, during his lifetime, things like preferential treatment as a means to getting to that dream. You know, he recognized that you had to do something special for the victims of injustice, or else you weren't really going to be able to confront the legacy of injustice.
And I'm to say to people that you ought to lift yourself by your own bootstraps. But it is a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Given that this is a country that's been founded on 400 plus years of this kind of behavior and 400 plus years of this disease of white supremacy, to talk about colorblindness as the answer now just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, it's a 400-year problem. It's going to take probably 400 years to undo the problem. And it's going to take honestly looking at it.
What is the vision of this racially just society that we hope to create? Can we even picture it? Can we even begin to imagine it? Can we describe it?
We are seeking to make America one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want us to be a melting pot. We want us to be Americans, not Asian Americans, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, but Americans first. And when we stop discriminating or even distinguishing on the basis of the color of our skin, we can get into the fascination of different cultures.
I mean, our message is tailored to people who want to embrace the idea of you know, ethnicity playing less of a role in who they are or what they decide or what they do and what they can be and all of those things. So,
Ward, if you were to have your way, would the government stop recognizing African American History Month in February, Hispanic Heritage Month, Kwanzaa, and other celebrations of our nation's ethnic diversity?
If I were king, yes, the government would do that. I think that is a private matter. I think that all of us can celebrate our ancestry as we want. I think that there are significant figures in history like Dr. King that we continue to honor, not because they're black, but because of their contribution to the nation.
That an individual would care to celebrate their heritage, to identify, that's not a problem. That's a very personal issue, and that's what America is about, the individual and the individual's right to say so. But the government should not be doling out benefits on this basis.
But color means something different in our society. It doesn't simply mean the color of one's skin. It has a social meaning that goes far beyond that. It has to do with history, it has to do with cultures, it has to do with stigma.
Racial identity is about kind of who you understand yourself to be within the context of your family, your community, and your history. And that understanding has political significance, particularly when you find that your own position is one that is disadvantaged as compared to the rest of society. Saying that that is kind of just a neat cultural fact that we can explore at some point once we stop, thinking about race, I think really misunderstands the role that race has played in our society and the significance of race, you know, not just kind of an aesthetic level or a purely cultural level, but the significance of it historically and politically.
I'm going to be black no matter what I do. The richness in America is that if you and I can become friends, share conversation, share activities together, I think that's how we narrow the gap, by getting a great understanding about who we are. I don't have to hide the fact that I'm black, I have a history and a legacy in Africa, and so why should I have to give that up just because I'm a black American?
Personally, I have absolutely no desire to be colorblind. I like my color. I'm very comfortable with it. I like who I am. I like being able to celebrate my culture, being able to be who I am and be comfortable with that, and want to live in a society where I'm not being accosted for that. Now, that's very different than talking about being colorblind. You know, that's racial equity. And if we start dealing with trying to get to a place of racial equity, I think we're having a whole different conversation than we are when we start to bring out words like colorblindness.
The opposite of colorblindness is having the capacity to see each other as we are, our different colors, our different shapes and sizes, and to still care about one another. The goal isn't just to tolerate one another or to give each other their due, but to care about the problems as well as the successes of each other, and not put blinders on in order to do justice. Colorblindness, as a legal doctrine, gives us an excuse not to care, not to intervene where there is obvious racial injustice, and to feel justified and even perhaps principled in our apathy and neglect.
And it may well be that we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words of the bad people and the violent actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence and indifference of the good people who sit around and say, wait on time.